All right. So let's talk about a fear that I think I have, and you have, maybe the world has. We definitely heard Eric O'Neill mention this fear when we interviewed him, of the fact that maybe we're offloading too much of our thinking and creativity to AI. Especially when it comes to like some of the dangers we talked about before with disinformation and misinformation. Are we just going to believe whatever the AI surfaces as the AI equivalent of a page one Google result? Or are we willing to engage a little bit deeper?
Yeah.
I'm going to use an article as a jumping off point, and then I just want us to like talk for a second about like how has AI impacted our lives and our personal cognition and workflow for the 2-ish years that we've been really looking at it fairly deeply.
Yeah.
So let me pull this up. This is from Vox, and it starts off and says, the case for using your brain, even if AI can think for you. And this came out just a few days ago, March 10th, 2025. And she says, my job, like many of yours, demands more from my brain than it is biologically capable of.
Amen.
For all of its complexity, the human brain is frustratingly slow, running at about 10 bits per second, less bandwidth than a 1960s dial-up modem. I feel that, at a soul level.
I struggle with the quantification of this, but I know we interviewed Wynn Schwartzow, who you talked about, who has been like crunching these numbers, and it is distressing how slow our brains are, especially compared to like a computer system.
Yeah, and I the conductive material is not really optimized for some of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now we have fiber optics and everything else that can essentially move stuff at near the speed of light. Mm-hmm. The move and the speed of information is like what this author is getting at. And she says that 10 bits per second is not enough to keep up with the consistent flow of information that we're exposed to every day. And then she uses this term, it's like raw dogging cognition while competing in today's economy is like bodybuilding without steroids. It's a noble pursuit, but it's not an easy way to win. It's not a way to win.
Raw dogging cognition is, I want a t-shirt that says that, or a coffee mug that says, don't talk to me, I'm busy raw dogging cognition.
Raw dog cognition daily.
I mean, that's a relatable feeling, though, and I'm sure we'll get into this, that like it's that mental friction you feel when presented with informational overload and the need to complete something, where like you may want to go deep or to like really grasp something, but you're just like, I don't have time, I don't have patience, this hurts my head to think about. Yeah.
So you need to like find a way to offload some of that, and the author's really kind of self-aware there. They say humans have never relied on sheer brain power alone. Of course, we're tool-using creatures with a long history of offboarding mental labor, using tools from like handwritten text to navigation apps to, all these other things that we bring around us to say, I have this in my head now, I need to put it somewhere else so I can work with it, or I need another tool so that the lift is easier. All that's been with us since the beginning. So AI is just another tool, but AI, I think, is in a long line of tools that we are both excited about and that society has also been concerned about. I think with every new tool, people are saying, what are we giving up that we know how to do right now, and what are we supplementing that with? And is the value of that supplement greater than the potential loss of the thing that we're putting aside?
I think for me, I struggle with the whiff of old man yelling at clouds that comes with articles like this of like, we're not using our brains no more. The kids are going to be dumb, But I think that there is like a kernel at the source of this. I wish I had this on hand, but I remember way back reading about how it is fundamentally different to your brain whether you can access a piece of information or not. In the sense of like, if you need to, phone numbers are a good example. Mm-hmm. If you know that your like friends' phone numbers, your parents' phone numbers, all important phone numbers are just stored in your phone and you can access them pretty quickly without the need for anything, you are far less likely to remember them than if you can't.
Yeah.
And for me, growing up when like landline phones were still a thing in the era of cell phones, I have most of my childhood friends' home phone numbers still memorized in my brain, but like I don't have most of the people who are important to me now's phone numbers memorized. Like there's this offloading of like memory and recall, which you touched on in the article too. But But then there's like, I feel like it's two coins, because the other coin is like research and knowledge work, which is something that you and I both do, like primarily.
Yeah.
So a lot of our day-to-day is cognitively raw dogging a bunch of different information and trying to draw parallels and connections between it. And we've both been adopting AI tools and workflows while trying to understand all of their shortcomings and things like that, and watch out for hallucinations and those things. But I have definitely noticed myself getting lazy at times. Especially knowing that I can ask Gemini or ChatGPT for help with like a coding problem. That's where I tend to get the laziest. I was working on a small like website project, and I'm not a web developer. And I found myself asking the AI for help with things that actually ended up being faster when I just gave up and did it myself.
Nice.
And so like, why did I do that though? Why do I do that?
Yeah.
Because it seems easier than having to like type it all myself, to have something generate it and refine it. But that's a harmful thing to do, I think. I think getting out of that habit is bad.
Well, I think if we go to like the early days of behavioral economics, you look at Daniel Kahneman talking about system 1 and system 2, and we really 95% of our day rely on system 1, that automatic, emotional, reflexive type of stuff. And our minds don't like to be in system 2 because it takes a lot of effort. It burns more calories. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. And so we're always wanting to like default to the easier thing. And what we have to get to, I think, is like, where's the value in moving to system 2? What's the long-term benefit? Because in your case, it would have probably been faster just to open the code and do it yourself. But for some people, it's faster just to work in the tool, and iterating on something that's not perfect is sometimes easier cognitively than creating the perfect thing the first time.
I think what's tricky is that it's made it difficult to know when to switch, because like sometimes, because it's so generally like decent at most of these things. I don't want to like AI is generally good at coding stuff, broadly speaking, better than if I pulled someone off the street.
Bit, on the bell curve, if meh is in the middle, it's to the right of meh most of the time.
And I think by virtue of that, like we learn to trust these external things rather than ourselves sometimes, and like knowing when you're not getting value and when you are is difficult, because that's like another decision. And like what you're saying, system 1, system 2 thinking, decision fatigue. That's the whole thing. Like how we got Steve Jobs wearing the same outfit every day, right? So he didn't have to make that decision. Like I remember that was a whole brain hacking
Einstein
thing.
has quotes like that too, right? It's like, why would I memorize maybe like something like the order of the planets when I can just look it up, or I can fill that spot in my mind, my memory, with other facts that I need to recall at any given time. So I can always look this other thing up. Arthur Conan Doyle's, Sherlock Holmes creation had very similar thoughts of like, why would I fill my mind with all these other kind of stupid things when I can either look those up when I need them, and I can, make my mind more expansive in other ways that are more meaningful to me. And I think that there's some truth to that.
Yeah, I think there is too. There's a great video from Technology Connections, which is a YouTube channel that I love. And it was a bit of an off-brand video for him, but talking about how algorithms are hijacking and breaking the way we think. And he compared things like infinite scroll to a Skinner box, where like you're there just constantly hoping that something will reward your dopamine. And like we've been trained in that way through all the platforms we use, and now we have this information retrieval system. I don't know, man. Yeah,
behavioral science is like built on that. So that infinite Skinner box, the infinite scroll that exists on social media platforms and other websites right now, that was designed. That is that's the hook model from Near Isle and others. Originated from the Stanford Persuasive Technology Lab, the one that BJ Fogg started back in the day. And then a lot of people kind of went off the rails with some of his applications of it in ways that he never really anticipated, but probably could have seen the results from if he really thought about it a little bit more. So he's moved a lot of his work back into things like healthcare and using behavior design to improve people's lives. But the entire Silicon Valley mindset has taken his model and folks like what Near Isle have done, and have moved that over to the other direction of like, how do we keep people engaged? How do we make them get just enough of a variable reward that they know that next dopamine hit is coming?
Yeah. And I hate to like feel like I'm just beating a dead horse, but like really it's that profit motive, greed and infinite growth infiltrate these tools. Like this, how you get things like people shaping AI opinions through SEO tactics and other things like that. And anyone trying to steer your main source of information for profit or whatever motive, like that is the thing that's poisonous. Because the tools themselves in the abstract are very useful and handy for these things. It's the other stuff that we do as a society that makes them bad.
Yeah. And I think, and maybe we'll end with this, is that probably a worthy question to start asking ourselves whenever we reach for a tool is, why am I reaching for the tool? And what is the perceived benefit that I'm going to get from this if I use it? Is that trade-off of me not engaging my own process worth what I'm going to get out of this tool, or am I potentially giving something up? And even if you decide to use the tool after that, maybe you'll see what some of your blind spots are and where you can engage that material differently.
I think it's a great point. And weirdly, it's just mindfulness, right? Being aware of your own behavior. Yep. That's how you make changes.
Exactly.
One thing we can't change, though, is the experience of the internet at large, and AI search is an absolute dumpster fire right now. We're going to talk about that in just a moment.
Is that what that smell was?
Oh, yeah.